Good morning, wrestling fans. Today is February 14th. I'm your host, Lance Brock. And today is Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. And that is why I am talking about what I am talking about today. Valentine's Day, going back to 1999 when WWF presented for the first and only time St. Valentine's Day Massacre live on pay-per-view at the Pyramid in Memphis, Tennessee. And I don't know if you could say the height of the Austin versus McMahon feud or not, but going in just a month before WrestleMania 15, Austin versus McMahon in a steel cage. I definitely remember this card. It was on Valentine's Day, so of course the date is February 14th, 1999. The attendance for the pay-per-view was 19,028. The pay-per-view buy rate 450,000 or 450,000. Sorry about that. And let's see, we started off with, I want to say, was this on, I don't remember if this was on the main card or the Sunday Night Heat before, but we have the team of Too Much, Brian Christopher and Scott Taylor. That was before Too Cool. I remember this team. I'm going to say it lasted real long though, but they were Too Hot Scott Taylor and Too Sexy Brian Christopher, and they formed a team, so they called themselves Too Much, and they defeated the Hardy Boys. Like I said, to go back to Too Much, this is before they became Too Cool and started doing the dancing gimmick. Also, Viscera with Midian in his corner defeated Test. Who had the big boss man in his corner via disqualification. And Billy Gunn, along with Triple H in his corner and X-Pac, defeated Tiger Ali Singh. Goldust defeated Blue Dust, if you remember that, while the BWO, the Blue World Order thing was going on. And next up we have Bob Holly defeated Al Snow for the vacant WWE or WWF at the time Hardcore Championship. I believe this was just before he changed his name to Hardcore Holly, but definitely after he was a race car driver known as Sparky Plug. And next up we have the Big Boss Man defeating Midian. Definitely not the time or the era that the Big Boss Man is best known for. This is more of his corporation days, and the next month at WrestleMania 15 would be him and The Undertaker in Hell in a Cell, which is definitely not one of the most famous Hell in a Cell matches, and definitely not one of the most talked about matches that is in The Undertaker's, well, at the time, undefeated WrestleMania streak. Well, mainly because at that time, the undefeated streak wasn't acknowledged yet. They didn't start really talking about it until WrestleMania 18 when he beat Ric Flair, and then he was 10-0. But now back to St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Jeff Jarrett and Owen Hart, with Deborah in their corner, defeated D'Lo Brown and Mark Henry, with Ivory in their corner, via submission in a match that was for the WWF Tag Team Championships. I remember this team of Jeff Jarrett and Owen Hart, and they had Deborah with them. I think this was, now that I look back at it, this was kind of an underrated tag team, Jarrett and Hart. They were, at the time, I was still kind of kayfabe, kind of, or cheer the baby faces, boo the heels. So I didn't really appreciate the work that those two put into their matches. And now when I go back and watch their matches as a team, I definitely appreciate the work that these two put into it. Unfortunately, this is just a few months before the tragic passing of Owen Hart. Val Venus defeated Ken Shamrock in a WWF Intercontinental Championship match, and Billy Gunn was the special referee. And we have tag team action up next. The Corporation, represented by Kane and Chyna, defeat DX, Triple H, and X-Pac at 14 minutes 46 seconds. And now it is time to the two co-main events. First, for the World Wrestling Federation Championship, The Rock and Mankind in a last man standing match. And it ends in a draw. So, I mean, good match, but a little disappointing that it was a draw. I just talked about on Sunday the empty arena match during halftime heat. Same year, while this feud was going on between The Rock and Mankind. And before the halftime heat was the famous I Quit match at the 99 Royal Rumble, in which I'm sure most people definitely remember that one. Probably say that is the best one of their feud. And one of the reasons it is famous is because of Beyond the Mat. Could be part of it. Definitely not the only reason, but they show The Rock where he has Mankind handcuffed and hitting him with those unprotected chair shots. And then you see the shots of Foley's kids crying in the front row, and then his wife has to take him to the back. Sorry for getting a little carried away and distracted away from the pay-per-view I'm talking about now, but And now it's time for the main event of the evening. Stone Cold Steve Austin taking on Mr. McMahon in a steel cage match. In this one, there's a famous spot that has been used in a lot of highlight videos and video packages where they were on the cage and Austin slams McMahon headfirst into the top of it, and then that knocks him off onto the announce table. McMahon takes this crazy bump. His back lands on the edge on the table, and definitely a crazy bump from Vince McMahon. And in this match, we also see the WWF debut of Paul White, who was most recently known as the Giant in WCW. This was before they called him the Big Show. When he first showed up, they called him Paul White, and then I remember at one time they even actually were going to call him the Big Nasty, I think, and then back to Paul White, I think, and then finally they settled on the Big Show, which is a better name than the Big Nasty, or at least I think so anyway. And he debuts, he attacks Austin right away, and he picks him up and slams him into the cage. And when he does that, part of the cage breaks through, and Austin goes through the cage out to the floor, so escaping the cage. And the winner of the match, Stone Cold Steve Austin. I didn't mention this yet, but the stipulation was where if Austin beat McMahon, he would go on to WrestleMania 15 and face The Rock for the WWF Championship. I'm sure everyone listening now knows what happened there. So St. Valentine's Day Massacre 1999. I don't know if I would say this was a great pay-per-view, but not bad. If you have some extra time, maybe you could go back on Peacock and the WWE Network. If you're in another country that doesn't have Peacock, go back and watch it. And speaking of Peacock, some bad news for anyone that is an Xfinity customer like I am. I saw the news the other day that starting this summer, that Comcast is ending the deal where you can get free Peacock for free with your Xfinity subscription, unfortunately. So now it looks like I am going to have to pay for Peacock for the subscription. Luckily, it's not too bad, I don't think, but gonna have to pay now. So that's all for this episode of Good Morning Wrestling Fans, the Valentine's Day edition. We got NXT on tonight. Hope everyone has a nice Tuesday. Remember, keep watching pro wrestling.